everyone. Welcome to Workplace Education Manitoba's What is Google Suite? My name is Leah Mitchell. I am the Interlake Regional Coordinator. Let's get started. I have a few introductory slides I'd like to chat with you about, and then I'll introduce our wonderful instructor, Rochelle Amy. So, Workplace Education Manitoba, helping people to develop essential skills that are needed for work, learning, and life. I'm sure many of you have heard about us before. You've heard about the 9 essential skills. Obviously, we all know what we're learning today. We're doing computer use, right? But if you think about it, you're also going to be doing thinking skills, you're going to be doing reading skills, you're going to be doing document use skills, writing skills. Everything you do out there uses the 9 essential skills. We just wanted to let you know where we're presenting from today. We are at the Interlake West Centre in Selkirk, Manitoba. If you feel like it, give us a little message from where you're from in the chat box. It's always interesting to see because these are posted live throughout the province, so it's just fun to see where we've got people today. So we currently right now are at 825 Manitoba Avenue. We have Interlake West Centres all over Manitoba. Flin Flon, Dauphin, Brandon, Steinbach, Thompson, Swan River, The Pas, Selkirk, and Winnipeg. If you're ever looking at increasing your essential skills, please feel free to visit our website and look up the center that you'd like to attend, give them a call, and they can help you. I'd also like to add on a side note that the Interlake West Centre in Selkirk, if after today you find that you would like some in-person practice with Google Docs, you can come to our Selkirk Interlake West Centre and we can help you with those skills as well during our open times. And if you're curious about the other centers, please feel free to give them a call. They can let you know if they're able to work on that with you as well. We'd also like to thank the appreciation for the development of these continuous skills, Employment and Social Development Canada, and Manitoba Education and Training. And this project was jointly funded by the Human Resource Development Canada and Entrepreneurship Training and Trade. For more information and to learn about more of our workshops, please visit our website. We have tons of things going on in the next couple months. Lots of online training tidbits, lots of online workshops. Now, before we get started and have Rochelle take over, we do ask to take 5 minutes. We will be sending out a jot form link in the chat box. So if you go to the attendee chat, we're going to put a little link in there. Now, this jot form is just a little quick survey to see your comfortability level with Google Docs. And the reason we do this is that at the end of the Google Docs in 3 sessions, we can see how you feel about it then. So we'll just get that link put in there and I will give you a couple minutes. Once you've filled out the survey, if you could please give us a thumbs up, then I know we can move on. Oh, the link is, I don't do too many online workshops. Oh, so if you scroll right to the very top, actually, under Rochelle A, there's a little jot form up there. So if you don't mind scrolling up and clicking on that, your link is right there. And like I said, please give me a thumbs up once you've done it. And we greatly appreciate you filling this out because this is how we report to our funders and let them know that people are enjoying our workshops, and that allows us to continue to run these workshops. I'm just checking, we just need a few more people to finish filling out. And like I said, just scroll up to the top of the attendee chat and you'll see the link there. Just waiting for about, I think about one more. It's at the bottom as well now if you didn't see it at the top. Perfect. I think we have everyone. So I'm going to introduce our wonderful instructor. Rochelle Amy is our essential skills instructor and instructor extraordinaire. She does our in-person West Center. She does our online workshops. She has over 2 decades of educational experience from early years all the way to university. She's also a student currently getting her graduate degree in leadership. So let's welcome Rochelle. Let's give her a little hand clap or a thumbs up.
Hey, thanks for the emojis, everyone. I love knowing you're out there and you're awake. Thank you, Leah, for that very kind introduction. Too kind. I will just do my best to share a little bit of what I've learned with you all today and trust that it helps you in your workplaces. But we can't start talking about computers today without an inspirational story. So let me share an inspirational story with you before we jump in. Once upon a time, a very strong woodcutter asked for a job from a timber merchant, and he got the job. The pay was really good, and so were the work conditions. For that reason, the woodcutter had determined he would do his very best. His boss gave him an axe and showed him the area where he was supposed to work. The first day, the woodcutter cut down 18 trees. "Congratulations," the boss said. "Please keep doing it that way." Very motivated by the boss's words, the woodcutter tried even harder the next day, but he only brought down 5 trees. The third day, he worked even harder, and he only brought down 10 trees. Day by day, his tree count was coming down less and less and less. "I must be losing my strength," this woodcutter thought. He went to the boss and he apologized, saying he could not understand what was going on. "Well," the boss said, "when was the last time you sharpened your axe?" "Sharpen? I've had no time to sharpen my axe. I've been very busy trying to cut the trees." Is that not a picture of our workplace today? I have a question I want to ask you. I'm going to put up a poll here. And don't worry, your employer won't see this. You won't hurt their feelings. Why don't you share with us what you think this looks like in your workplace? Does your employer constantly encourage you to take PD? Do they sometimes encourage you? Are you like, "I can't remember the last time"? You know, where do you think your employer ranks on this? Okay, a few people are answering it. It's interesting because some are saying all the time, "My employer loves to train me." We've got a few sometimes, and then we get the occasional, and there's a few there who answered, "I can't even remember the last time." So no matter where you fit in that category, if you feel like you're being encouraged all the time, if you feel like they never make time, there's just no margin for learning, I'm glad you joined in today, because this is the perfect way to do some PD in a way that benefits the company. This isn't just random information, but this is something you can actually incorporate into whatever your work setting is, whatever the software is that you're using. So when we dig into this 3-part series, we want to break it down into chunks of really what we're going to look at. Well, today we really need to get philosophical and understand what brought us to this place that Google emerged huge in the market. What happened to get us there? Because that's going to help us understand why Google could be a useful tool. And then understanding why workplaces are moving there, recognizing the importance of Chrome, and then looking a bit into Google Drive, because that's really going to be the key to your success. In the next 2 sessions after this, we'll dig in deeper on the tools, so you're actually seeing how to use it. I'm even going to give you homework on how to use it. Don't be scared of the homework. And you'll get to expand your repertoire on what kind of documents you can create and collaborate on. And probably the biggest thing everybody loves is the collaboration feature. So we will dig into that also. But today is going to set the tone, set the pace, lay the foundation for being able to use all the tools. So you will notice over in the chat, Gail has loaded for us a handbook to accompany today's discussion. You do not need the handbook for note-taking. It doesn't follow this PowerPoint. What it's for is the outcomes today. So I'm going to leave you with a new tool on something to challenge yourself with in Google, and that'll be in that handout. So if you click on that link, it'll launch into a new tab, and you can keep that tab open and print or save the document so that you can refer back to it. The good news about computers is that they do exactly what you tell them to do, but isn't that the bad news too, as Ted here tells us? So recognizing that, when you came into your position, you probably got a little bit of an orientation to what kind of software your company uses, and then how many with an emoji can tell me it's changed since then? Something's changed. Probably the email program changed. A lot of email servers are being hijacked these days and being held for ransom money. And yes, I feel your pain. Thank you for that. It's not always good news when it changes. And so people are changing over entire servers, entire email providers, and storage solutions because of all this crazy stuff that's going on with hijacking data. And sometimes we get into this place where we're managing multiple email addresses. And I know in my various workplaces, I actually run a couple email addresses for the same job. So there's some positions where I have to have 2 email addresses just to correspond in the same office. So I'm curious here, how many of you find that you are using, 1 email address? Are you using 2 to 3, 3 to 4, or are you using more than 4? And I'm talking professional and personal, okay? So we want the full gamut. So we're seeing from those answering, the majority of us are actually in that 4+ category. Ah! So you probably have the same password, right? So you can remember. So out of that, maybe you can just show me with an emoji, how many of you in those multiple email addresses, you have multiple Gmail, so specific to Google, how many of you have multiples there? So, okay, a few of us, all right. So we are, lots of us, so we're like knee deep or waist deep in this, right? We're in so far we can't get out. So let's learn how to manage those. And in the workplace, are you finding that you're using any Google products? So again, with that emoji, give me a thumbs up if you're finding that either a Google Doc or a Google spreadsheet is something that you're using, or Google Slides. So we have not seen that in some of your workplaces yet. I know in our workplace, we're using Google Sheets all the time, and it's been our lifeline. And I probably could bet you, I'm not going to bet you, but I could bet you that very soon you will be in your workplace. It's just a matter of time. So today I want to answer 2 questions together. What the heck is Google Suite? And what's the deal with Google Drive? Why does that matter? I personally believe answering number 2 is the most important thing you're going to learn about Google, period. Because if you get number 2 right, you can conquer every other tool that Google has for you. So pay attention to that one. But on this idea of what is Google Suite, what does that even mean? Well, think about what a suite is in real estate. A suite, for example, in a hotel room, you could have a standard room where you just have 1 bed in there, or you could rent a suite, and it usually means that there's multiple rooms. You get a room that's blocked off from a bathroom, that's blocked off from a little kitchenette. So a suite is encompassing a place that hosts many things for many different functions. And when we're talking about the G Suite or the Google Suite of products, we're really talking about all the different apps that they made that are under their brand or under their umbrella. Now within that, there's quite a few. And I don't know that there's anybody who actually knows how to use all of them, or even if they did know, I don't think there's anybody who actually engages all of them. I think most people have a little briefcase of the things that they like to use, and they just hang on to those particular tools for their workplace. So why on earth did Google become so popular? Why did G Suite sort of emerge as this huge thing? Well, the first thing to understand is they really changed the concept of what you pay for with computers. So how many with an emoji you've bought a personal computer before, a laptop or an actual computer? Have you gone into Best Buy and ever bought a computer, or Staples? Have you purchased that for your home? Okay, so you've noticed the price point on computers starts at about $300 and goes way up to $3,000 in your over-the-counter computers, right? So it always used to be that when you're buying the computer, you needed a computer that actually was a good piece of hardware, like the actual plastic and metal parts in it worked, and then you needed an operating system that worked, and then you needed software that worked. So you add all those things up, and people are in the $1,000 to $2,000 range to get a reasonable computer that will last more than a year. Well, when Google came onto the scene, they sort of changed that whole concept. They didn't care what device you had. They made their products so that their products could work almost on a piece of styrofoam. They just work, and they do not need a super fast operating system. They don't need a computer with, you don't need any memory basically on the computer. And so it brought the price way down of the piece of hardware that you had to invest in, and they made their software for free. Now, the way they did that is they changed the concept of the internet. So you used to take your computer and connect into the internet to try to do some research. But if you were ever doing work, creating documents, spreadsheets, graphs, and charts, that was software that you were doing that was loaded on your actual device. So your piece of equipment you had, this had all the software in it, and you had to do the work on this piece of equipment. And if you were away from that piece of equipment, you'd have to transfer the information on a memory stick, or who remembers a disk? Anybody old enough to know what a disk or a diskette was? A floppy disk. Thank you. I feel the love. So, you couldn't take this everywhere, so you would put it onto a disk and take that to another computer. And what you were using then was software that was installed on a device. Well, Google said, hey, why should we be limited to people having to buy our software? Why don't we put all of our software on the internet? And then people aren't using the internet just to research funny cat videos. They could actually go online, type a real looking document, resume, spreadsheet, poster. They can make all that on our software, which is hosted online. So now we have a different concept. We don't need this anymore. We could find any device anywhere in the world, and we can access all of our work documents and the software that we need to create them on. That was a huge, massive shift. And Google really are the ones who made that shift. And then since they did that, the competitor companies are trying to keep up. So for example, Microsoft or Apple, their philosophy wasn't to have their software online. They wanted you to buy the software and install it on a device, and that's what made computers so expensive. And then since Google sort of changed it, we've seen the emergence in the competitor products, where now they've made some things accessible online too, but it was created sort of in a backwards way, whereas Google made sure all their software worked in an online platform. The other thing they did that some people really love is they went as user-friendly as you can go. So Google almost, they did change the language. How many of you, when you first were making documents, you learned the concept of save, and then you had to learn this concept of save as, and it was very confusing. I was so confused when I first entered that world of save and save as, right? And I actually teach that nowadays to people, and it can be so tricky to grasp because of how that platform works. Do you know that Google doesn't have a save as function? It doesn't exist. You don't even have a save button. When you're working in a Google document, your work is automatically being saved. And then if you decide you want to make a copy of it, you don't click something called save as. You click something called make a copy. Brilliant? So easy. How come it took 20 years to come up with that language? So they've done a lot of user-friendly tweaks where you're not understanding a certain coding language, you're not understanding a proprietary language. It's just a little bit more logical, like make a copy. I love it. I love teaching people make a copy. It's so freeing. And so most Google fans would tell you it's just the easiest thing to use. It's more user-friendly than other things. But when you look at this screen, for example, it doesn't look very user-friendly, does it? It just looks like lots of colors and shapes, and what the heck are they all for? Well, we've put up some of the more popular terms for you at the top. These are the phrases you've probably heard people toss around, right? These are the ones that are synonymous with the brand. But the question begs to be answered, how did even the brand Google turn into a verb, right? So people don't look things up anymore, they Google it. So I'll just Google that recipe, I'll just Google that definition. You know, students have even learned in high school, you can just Google your exact math equation. You just type the equation in and Google gives you the answer. It's crazy. So it's become a verb, but we need to understand why. And knowing that their software is something that's all hosted online helps us figure out why they sort of took a giant chunk out of the market when they came on. So we want to understand a couple concepts about being online. Okay, there's a way to get online with your computer. Let's assume we are connected to a Wi-Fi connection, a router, and a phone line. Let's assume we can get to the internet. Now when we're on our computer, we want to use an app or use a program that can actually get us there. So that's our web browser. And those little icons look familiar. I'm curious in the chat, pop up what your favorite one is there. I have on the screen Firefox, Safari, Chrome, and Edge. I'd be curious which one are your favorites to use. I'll let you in on a secret. Firefox is a favorite for a lot of companies because it does some security things that the other ones don't do. Chrome and Edge, a lot get used interchangeably, and depending what email program you use the most might prompt where you go first also, right? So that concept of Firefox, Chrome, Edge, or Safari, if you're an Apple user, that's your way to get on to the internet. And then when you're on, you're using something called a search engine. Now you're going to have a default search engine already programmed into your computer that you bought, attached to whichever browser you use. But theoretically, you could go to any of the other search engines. Once you're on the internet, you could go to yahoo.com and you can use them as a search engine, or MSN or Google or whomever. There's a cajillion of them and people have their favorites. Well, this middle category is really where people got all verby about Google. They realized Google's search engine is really, really powerful, really, really fast, does amazing results, and it's a clean page to look at. And we'll look at that ahead. And when you combine that with the fact that all of their software is found online, why would you not use the Google web browser search engine and software all at the same time? So that's how they've moved out of just being a search engine and actually being a browser. So if you've answered Chrome, that's one of your preferred entrances to the internet, that's the Google brand of a web browser. It's installed on most devices too, so you probably have it automatically. So recognizing that when you want to use their software, the platform you'd use it on would be within Google, and it works on their web browser. So almost everything you do is going to work 100% well if you use their web browser. You can use another one. You could go on to, say, Safari, and then you could go into your Google account from there, and you could use that browser. But for ease, especially when you're first working with documents, I encourage you to try using Chrome. And the reason for that is tied to what we'll cover in how Google Drive works. So I know I look a little bit like an angel, right? I'm in a sunbeam. I think I can't avoid it. Let's just spread the rumor that I'm part angel. Let's let that get out there. So why do businesses care? Because don't most businesses, haven't they paid big bucks for their own software? Haven't they done something to really own what they have? Well, probably they did. And as businesses are learning right now, it's no longer important what kind of software you have. Now what matters is the data, because all the software companies are competing. And so they've made their software interface with each other. So if I have a bunch of Microsoft Excel spreadsheets, Google wants me to use Google. So they made the Google equivalent called Sheets interface with Excel, so I can easily transfer my files over. I don't lose any data, I lose hardly any formatting, and vice versa. So companies are realizing we're not tied to software anymore, we're tied to data management. And so when companies are digging in, they first have to say, do we want to use a regular email program, or could we use Google? And when we're using our search engines, do we have to be committed, and do we have to keep our company always locked on the same one? Or what do we find people are using? Well, worldwide, Google owns 90% of the search engine market. That means Africa, India, maybe not China, Africa, India, Europe, US, people are going to Google first before they're going anywhere else. And we see that trend emerging in email also. Now, this slide's actually slightly outdated. I bet you the 2020 numbers for this is a shocking difference than what we see here, because every year it's growing exponentially. And fascinating, because the software is free, 92% of brand new startup companies, they're using Gmail. They've moved to the Google platform so that all of their data is mobile. They can access it from a phone, a tablet, anywhere in the world. All their employees can access it, and it costs them $0 to use. So why does the browser matter again? What's the big deal with that? Well, it's recognizing that your products work best when they're hosted on the brand that created them. I will never tell you that they won't work using another brand, because they will work, but they will work seamlessly when you don't just use Google to search up recipes anymore, but you actually use it for the actual web browser, not just the search engine. So big deal. So Google's a web browser. Does that even matter? How big are they? Well, this number on their market share, this was only 400 billion 5 years ago. So they've doubled in their share of the market share on web browser land. And that's pretty significant growth, I'd say. 400 billion in 5 years, that wouldn't be a bad deal for any of our companies. And when we look at the impact of that worldwide, remember we looked at an email slide a little while ago. Now we're looking at what their browser share is. So anyone in any workplace going online to do anything, even to update their own company website, majority of the people are going to Chrome first. Well, here's one of the reasons why, and this is just totally a personal opinion. I think Google shares this opinion, but this is totally my personal opinion on why people go there. The screenshot to the left shows you what the Microsoft Edge screen looks like. So when I open that browser, this is what I get. Cheesy scalloped potato recipes, whatever the Queen of England's doing, some hockey highlights, probably now it would be COVID-19 updates. And I get this, 10 or 12 news stories that I never asked for, just spamming me really, really loud on the screen. Well, look to the right. This image is how Google decided to be a web browser and search engine for us. They just have this all-white page. They have their logo. It's a little cute. They change the themes throughout the year. And it's just an empty spot. You type in or speak in anything you're looking for, and we'll find it for you. We'll be nice, and we'll put down below a couple of the things you visited recently. But generally, you're not going to get any news stories. We're not going to give you anything unless you ask for it. So it takes away the TMI, or the too much information, and puts you into a place of peace. Now, companies like this when their computers are visible to the public, because you don't have control on what those news stories are with the other browsers. But with Google, you don't get any inappropriate content. You won't see an ad by your competitor on that home screen when someone opens the internet. So they tend to like to have Google be the one that's seen. So did your mom ever say to you, if everyone jumped off the bridge, would you? My parents like that one. Have you heard that one? Well, a lot of people have jumped off the bridge and they're embracing Google. And so here's the disclaimer. Workplace Education Manitoba and myself as today's host, we actually don't endorse that Google's the best thing. It's not a better product at all. All three of the major companies have fantastic products and I use them all the time. But what we are encouraging you to think about is that according to the trend, the market share, what startup companies are doing, and how companies are moving away from buying big software packages, chances are you're going to have to use Google to create documents and spreadsheets in the future. So I want you to change your mindset. I'll just Google that isn't the purpose. It's not for surfing the internet. The concept of using Google as a verb is thinking about how do I collaborate on documents, how do I have ease of use, and how do I have accessibility so that no matter what device I'm on, as long as I have my password, I have all of my documents. So of course they want you to be the fave. They want to be your fave. They made the fastest, most robust search engine out of anyone. Almost nobody can dispute that. But what they're really pushing for is the integration between every app that you use and every document. Now, in the next session together, we're going to dig into integration a little bit because I do want to show you how, while you're making a very static document like a word processing document, they make adding in pictures and internet and research and all that so easy. It's like one click to be able to enhance the documents you make. And then they do that across all the devices and all the apps. It's amazing integration. And in order for it to work, here's a key. You actually have to have Chrome. So I did give you a little disclaimer that it will work on other things, but for the purpose of our three sessions together, you actually do need to have Chrome installed, and it creates a shortcut for you in many ways for the platform to work. So if you already have an Android device, that would be a Chromebook, a Samsung, anything that's not Apple or Microsoft, you probably have that installed already, and this would be the icon you're looking at. And if you have an Apple or Microsoft product, you'd be adding that on. Now, can I see a thumbs down if you do not have that on your screen or desktop or taskbar, and give me a thumbs up if you've already got that one at the ready for you. It might be how you joined today. So to help you find that, in that handbook that you're taking a copy of today, there are instructions on how you can download Chrome and have it, and I encourage you to pin it to your desktop or your taskbar, that part at the very bottom of your screen. It'll make your life a whole lot easier. This is what it would look like if you had it down below. You'd get that little icon showing you that with one click, you could access Chrome and be on the internet. So again, recognizing, sure, they had email, sure, they became the big, huge web browser, but what's really happened in the last 5 years is that their software sort of took over in user-friendly world. Now, last summer, I got a chance to go to this international conference and meet people from all over the world. And the fascinating thing to me was that most of the people I met from the continent of Africa, they knew more about Google than I had heard of. They used it in every way possible. So I got to see already that culturally, people were recognizing they don't believe in just the device anymore. They believe in using a platform that they can get to from anywhere in the world. And it really had to do with their software, not email. It had to do with being able to make professional looking documents no matter where you are. Now, these apps that people get versed in, there's over 200 of them. Maybe this number even grew last night, and maybe there's 300 of them now. I don't know. But who on earth actually could use 267? I don't think so. Really, it's taking a sense of what happened and changed over the last few decades that could make my life easier? Do I have to explore every single app that was invented? Or do I need to take a look at what did I do in the 2000s digitally that's maybe been made a little bit easier? Now, my first computer in my first office job was this old DOS system. The computer was absolutely massive and the screen was actually quite small. And I couldn't launch any program without knowing the coding for it, right? So I had the black screen and I had to type in \3RC-XYZ and hit enter, and then suddenly a window would open and I could do something in there. Well, all those things got easier with Windows, and a lot of us think we're really savvy because we know how to use Windows now and we don't have to do coding. But I want to encourage you to think, like, is there anyone out there who knows who this person on the screen is? Give me an emoji if you actually know who this artist is. Famous artist from the 90s. Right, okay. So this is my throwdown to you then. If you know who that is, my challenge is to kind of think, this is a little bit like Google's model. They think nobody can touch their platform, that they're second to none. That's what they believe. But I encourage you to take a look at, what have I always done? Have I always done Microsoft Word for this document? And is there maybe an easier way to do it? What else is out there? These are the top apps that you would use in the workplace if you used the Google platform. So Chrome's how you're getting online. Drive, that's just another word for basically iCloud or a storage cloud online. And then Docs is their equivalent to Microsoft Word, and Sheets, of course, makes sense. Remember how I said they make everything easy? Instead of calling it a random word like Excel, they call it Sheets because it's a spreadsheet. Pretty clear. And then we find that the interface between Calendar, Gmail, and Google Slides work really well. Who knows what Slides would be? Slides is their equivalent to PowerPoint. Makes sense. You're going through slides, right? So this is the one to take a note of, that these are the ones you would really actually use. We are going to cover the first 4, and we're not going to go deep into the Calendar, Gmail, and Slides. We'll save that for another session because it's actually amazing what you can do in that. But we will cover the first 4 as we move through. So trying to figure out, how do I find them all? Where do I get them? Well, look what's in common with this recipe of how to get to some of these apps. As long as you're online, maybe use the Chrome browser to make your life easier. All you have to do is type in the name of the app, .google.com, and you'll find them all. I do want to highlight for you, though, that the best entryway is the big way here that you see with the Drive. You can get to it by typing in all the other app names, but best practice in the workplace would probably be to use the Drive portal and go through that way first. When we gather in our next session, I'm actually going to dig into that and show you my Drive. I'll do a screen share with you, and I'll show you why it's so important to go in that way for really managing and owning your documents. So recognize what the little icon looks like, and does anyone already have that as a shortcut on your desktop or on your taskbar? Do you use that shortcut at all? Maybe give me the thumbs up if you find you already have that, thumbs down if haven't really looked at that. So we're not actively using that yet, and it's interesting because compare how many of you said you have multiple Gmail addresses. And so Drive is something you actually already have. If you have a Gmail address, you do have a G Drive. We just need to help you find it and be able to use it in a really great way. So recognizing the difference in the icons, okay, the little circly-do with the colors got you online, but once you're online, this special triangle is actually what you're looking for, because that's your cloud where everything's stored. That's your memory. Instead of buying memory on a computer, now you have it all right there on Google Drive. Now they keep changing this, so I did add an update. They started out with 10 gigabytes free. They've recently increased that to 15, and it's a little bit of a hook to get people to use Drive. And basically that's probably enough for your personal use. Most users don't really have to pay to add on to Google Drive. If you use it for all your photos, you probably will find you need to. But in terms of workplace, you'd be fine with the free account. Storage otherwise is about $3 or $4 a month. And the great thing is it links to your Gmail. So let's imagine that all of you Gmail users out there send me a Gmail, an email with an attachment. When I'm in your email, I can just automatically put it in my storage. I don't even have to open it, actually. If I know that you've sent me the final version of the document we've been working on and the final PDF is what you've emailed me, I don't even open it. I just save it automatically into my Drive. So I love how Gmail and Drive work together. And there's one thing to just kind of keep in mind. I wouldn't mind a laughing emoji if you recognize this song. I'm just like, this is like music with the oldies today, isn't it? We're just like in memory lane. But if you catch the pun on what this one's from, thank you for knowing this song. I do want to encourage you that basically nothing you do on a computer is ever private, like ever, no matter what. But that's sort of the advantage that Google uses, is that really everything you make, you can't lose it. They store your documents for you. They store older versions, same as spreadsheets, photos, and whatever. They can find it. And they can find it with this amazing search feature in your Google Drive where you don't even have to know what things are called. You might just remember that I emailed you a PDF about the rodeo, and the rodeo has a special name and you can't remember what it's called. Well, your Google Drive is powerful enough that you could put in there, that event with horses. And honestly, it's going to find it. It has an amazing, amazing search capacity within your Drive. I'm not talking about the internet. I'm talking about your Drive. So it actually does recognize every document you've made, every spreadsheet you've made. It starts to recognize your language and what you've created. So the top image shows you that if you're within a Gmail account, you get that little triangle icon that represents your Drive. One click of the button, boom, it's in your Drive. With another click, you put it exactly where you want it to be. The search feature there about Eiffel Tower we'll touch on next week. And then Google Drive is something that's actually built into a Chromebook. So a Chromebook just means a little lightweight laptop that's meant to be used online, and it works with all the Google products. You can also use your Chromebook to go online and use your Microsoft stuff that's online too. But basically, a Chromebook is like a giant telephone. It's meant to be used online. That's its primary purpose. And because of it, they're super cheap. I think you can get a Chromebook for like $250, like super, super cheap. So great way to get technology into people's hands. So why is it mostly free? Because now we don't actually need to buy any software. Now we really don't care if our computer has any memorage. There's a good one. I'm going to market that. Myriad storage doesn't really matter. You don't need that on your computer because your things are saved in a cloud. And then speed is not an issue because Chromebooks and other devices are meant to process things online really quickly. And all you really would pay for would be storage fees. And again, you probably won't need to upgrade that for personal use. But this is the win. This is why people make the switch. Because how many times have you tried to upload a file and it's too big to send? Or someone's waiting on the email and so on. Well, with Google, you can do instant collaboration at the touch of a button. It's live sharing of the document right within the document. So I get to be typing in it and you get to be typing in it at the exact same time, and we get to collaborate on it. So that means we could share files. That means we could invite someone to edit it. It also means we could tell someone, I want to invite you to look at the file, but I'm not giving you privileges to edit it. You just have privileges to look. Or maybe you have privileges to make a comment, but you can't actually screw up my margins for me. There are ways to do that, so people do love that. And that feature exists on every piece of their software. So if you made a PowerPoint presentation, if you made a spreadsheet, if you made a Google drawing, it wouldn't matter. It's just recognizing you saved a file, who do you want to share it with? You get to decide who you want to share it with. So recognizing what are they that I actually am using daily or weekly, and who do I need to get the access for that? Well, getting the access to them is as simple as a tiny little share button in the corner of the screen. So think about that memory sticks, USB, flash drive, those basically become obsolete because within your drive, not only can you share a document, you could just give privileges to a whole folder and people could have access to, maybe you're working on a building project and expanding your building. Well, you can have a file on your Google Drive that's just about the building project, and you can share it with 50 people, and that's the only thing they can see on your drive. It's just the folder that you invited them to collaborate on. So what the heck is it going to look like? How do I know if I'm actually in Google? Am I logged in? How do I know? What's the difference? Because sometimes when I go to google.com, I'm logged in, and sometimes I'm not, and I can't access things. We'll take a look at one of the cues up here in the corner. Notice how up in the corner, actually in two places, both in the address bar area and a little below beside the WAFFLE, you can see the R. So that's indicating that Rochelle is logged in because I just happen to have the R as my picture. You could have a picture of a donkey, it wouldn't matter. Whatever you've assigned to be your picture there, it shows you who's logged in. Now, if you're like me and you have to manage multiple email addresses, this is sort of the first thing you look at because you have to figure out which account am I in right now. Am I in work Rochelle account or am I in personal Rochelle account? And so I make the pictures different so that I know which account I'm in. You would know if you're not signed in if you just see a sign in button and a random picture above it that you've never picked or assigned. That's your cue that you would need to sign in. Now here's the key. If you have a Gmail, go experiment and take a look. Sign in to Gmail, and then up in the WAFFLE, choose Google Drive, and you'll discover you actually do have a drive. It's already there for you. You don't have to do anything to install it. And when we're in Drive, we want to go there first. We don't want to go to docs.google.com. We don't want to click on a desktop shortcut of some file because your desktop ends up having 20 shortcuts on it and then nothing's actually a shortcut. You have to search your whole desktop. So start with Google Drive, and the pathway is drive.google.com. In fact, I'm just going to type that in there for you because truly, if you put this into your browser, you can get access to all your files, all your pictures, and it'll interface with your email. So let's assume you've gone to drive.google.com, you're signed in. That's the only way you'll see Drive. If you're not signed in, you won't see it. Once you're signed in, this is how you want to add your files. You want to open up a browser, maybe a new tab if you're already in 25 tabs like I usually am. Right in the top, you could go ahead and put google.com. You will have to sign in, and I wanted to include this screen because you don't necessarily have to have a Gmail account. You just need to create a presence on Google. So maybe you have an email address with, say, Hotmail. You could go to Google and create a Google account using your Hotmail address. They just want to know who's using Google right now because I want to save documents for you, so I have to save it to somebody's ID. Maybe they want it to spy too. We just won't talk about that, but they basically need you to sign in to ever get access to a drive. That's usually the reason people can't find it, is they're not signed in. So if you're not, you won't get access to all these extras. Now that little icon right there, we love it. It's called a waffle. It looks like a Belgian waffle for breakfast. And when you click on that, that's really when you get all your options of what's available to you. Puts the most common ones at the top, and you'll get all these apps that show up. So right from your waffle, you could click on Google Drive and go there first. You'll notice that when you do that, a new tab opens. So you don't move anywhere. Let's say you're in Gmail and then you click on the waffle and you click on Google Drive, a new tab will automatically open. So it never closes what you're already working in. I love that feature, I just gotta say. If it's your first time going in and creating an identity, make sure you take the tutorial. It is actually super helpful. And honestly, take them like once a year, because I just found that even as I was preparing to share this with you today, I had to go change one of my slides because just within the last 3 months, Google changed one of the things that they do. So like within the last 3 months, I already had to relearn one little thing. Now it's easy once you understand why Google works, but go ahead and do those tutorials. Every time it wants to show you something new, just, do it in your pajamas in the morning and just grab that one more piece of what they've updated. Now we're inside of our Google Drive. So we're going to click on New, and then you get to choose. What's my new thing I want to store in my iCloud? Because that's the phrase most of us know, right? We know that that just means that's the Apple version of a storage cloud. Well, Google Drive is my cloud. What do I want to save in my cloud? Do I want to save a new folder? Do I want to upload files? Do I just want to start a new document? What do I want to do? Well, you could go ahead and click on a folder. You'll notice that it's empty, so you can add a file to it. So you would click on Google Docs and say, I want to add a new Google Doc into that file on my drive. It's brilliant. You'll never lose it. It'll be there until you delete it. And again, what happened? A new tab opened, opening up a Google Doc for us in another tab. So you can see on the left, and actually I'll turn my camera off so that gets a little bigger for you. You can see on the left that Google Drive is still there in a tab, Gmail is still there in a tab, and the newest thing that we picked opened up into a new tab. I love it. Makes things super easy. I think you can have 20 open at a time. Yeah, there you go. You can have up to 20, and it's super cool because you can reorder them so that the one you're using all the time, you can keep to the far left and keep in control of what you're working on. The thing about technology is I'm totally not a groupie. I don't call myself a techie at all. I love to bemoan how much time technology takes when it's supposed to make our lives easier. Sometimes it makes it harder. So sometimes I can be found sort of complaining about that to my husband. But really, this is the whole goal of what we're trying to do when we gather in today's session and the next two, is we want to get a piece of equipment into your toolbox. We want to show you, you do have the skills to be able to do Google, and you do have the skills to be able to create spreadsheets and documents that are not only super user-friendly, but look really good. And with that ability to do that, you don't want to just become like a Google groupie or an Apple groupie or something. That's not the point. The point is, can this enhance anything in my workplace and make my life easier or my colleagues' lives easier? So I just want to give a big shout out to my own supervisor, Leah, who you met early on in the webinar. She recognized we were working on this complex task together and it involved a spreadsheet. And so she just jumped right in and created Google spreadsheet so that we could collaborate no matter where we were in the province. And now, Leah, how many people use that? I think the one she made, I want to guess there's 10 people who use that like every single day, and we're all in different cities across the province. And it's amazing. So, she wouldn't have described herself as a Google person. She's, I think, drank the Apple Kool-Aid, right? Any other Apple Kool-Aid drinkers out there? But I'm just so impressed because she used it to actually collaborate and make our jobs easier. So that's the goal. We actually don't want to recruit anybody here to a certain product or brand at all. I just do believe, from being forced to do it myself, I do believe that if you will set your mind to understanding how Google's created this online platform with really great software, if you could understand that first, it actually makes the Microsoft Office platform easier to use, and other collaboration tools are a little bit simpler because Google just made it in a really user-friendly way. So recognizing that I've been harping on you, make sure you use your Google Drive. I have a little bit of homework I want to give you, okay? Because next time we're going to be digging into Google Docs and Google Sheets, and we'll be looking at that share button and collaborating. Because we'll go a little bit deeper next time, I really want you to own Google Drive. So those of you who have a Google ID already, I encourage you to take some time, Go to the WAFFLE, find your Google Drive, and see what's in there. There's probably some things that are automatically saved in there, and go ahead and start organizing them, trying to figure out, how do I rename them? Why are they here? Do I put things in folders? Just play around a bit so that you know how to get into your Google Drive and out of it really seamlessly. And I did this with one professional who manages tons of documents, and they actually never knew they had Drive. They knew they were always saving a Google Doc, but they didn't know where it went. And because Google search is so great, they would just search for the name every time and it would come up. But then once they discovered Google Drive, it was like, whoa, like sort of like how I'm in this sunbeam today. Everything started glowing. So along with that homework, I do have in your handout that I want you to practice something, okay? So I bet if I asked you, all of you here today would say you've used Google before as a search engine. You've gone to Google, you've typed something in, and you've looked for some kind of content. That's probably a safe bet, right? All of us have done it. So if all of us have done that, I want us to increase our skill. And increasing our skill on how we use the internet. So there's several notes. I mean, like there's 40 different things in that notebook. I want you to go through and pick one or two to try out, and try out when I'm doing an internet search using the Google web browser, what kind of results do I get if I just do my search in my normal way? Now, I'm going to give you an example. Let's imagine that we're trying to figure out how to hook up a printer. I want to learn how to hook up my printer. Sorry to those of you who are going through printer pains right now. I feel your pain. This just came to my head, but I want to hook up a printer. So I could go to Google, how do I hook up my printer? And you'll probably get good results because Google's robust. But if you would go through your homework activities and try out some of the tools with using plus and minus and quotations and different filters to be able to change your results, you're going to find that your searching yields better and more credible results than you've been getting in the past. Now, if you're in a particular industry, I'd like to ask you that next time what kind of field of work you're in. You'll find maybe you're researching product development, maybe you're manufacturing, maybe you're constantly looking at bylaws and regulations. So having those tools to not just ask Google to give you what they think, but to be able to narrow down your search, it's going to strengthen how you use their platform and any competitors. So I believe it's a transferable skill that you can take with you even if your company always uses Edge, let's say. So within that workbook, there is an email address mentioned in there. And I do ask you to engage with me over the next 2 weeks. You have 14 days till we meet again. And I ask you to engage with me by sending me an email that tells me about what one of the things is that you've tried out and that maybe you'll use in your workplace, and if it had any impact at all, if it increased your skills. Those of you who do research and have to actually quote and use citations and all those things, you're going to love lots of those tools that are in there. So that wraps up our session for today. Thank you, Gail, for posting for us that we will meet again on October 20th. So you have lots of time to do your homework, and it's pretty easy and it's kind of fun because you get to pick a topic you like. So pick a topic that's going to benefit your workplace, or pick a topic that you enjoy, you know, how to train a dog, whatever it is. Use a bunch of those search tools and spend some time in your Google Drive. And then you have an email address in that handout. So Gail, maybe you can put the handout there again, just so if anyone didn't grab it, they can quickly grab that PDF. And I'm so glad you took the time to be like that axe cutter that we opened with that story today. You know, we could just keep trying to chop down trees and use computers, or once in a while we could sharpen an axe and just learn something new and add it to our toolkit, because who knows when we'll need it on some rainy day or in another workplace. So thank you again for joining us. I'm just going to pop that workbook there for you so that it's handy for you. And go ahead and click on it, and you'll find it'll open up into another tab. You can save it, print it out, and we will meet again in 2 weeks. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. And I guess today you were touched by an angel. Have a great day.